If I was a rich girl. Na 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 na. A little more on Back to the Future Part 2. On the setups and payoffs, something very important for filmmakers is creating visual consistency. And what I'm talking about is how Back to the Future Part 3 happens to have a lot of... It happens to take place in the Old West. But the filmmakers, knowing that that's going to be Part 3, they don't want to just throw you into the Old West. They want you to be thinking about the Old West beforehand so that it's not just a drop into the Old West all of a sudden. So they create little setups and payoffs that are visual or audio that they won't get focus on them. They won't get any dialogue. But the importance of these payoffs is to create a consistency in your mind so that it does not feel like it comes out of nowhere to go to the Old West. And there's multiple hints throughout Back to the Future Part 2 that are cleverly disguised and cleverly made to be quick and to not be really noticed, but are there just to keep it in your head. So the first little setup for that is Marty in the arcade when he sees Elijah Wood and another kid struggling to play with an arcade game. It happens to be a shooter game. And Marty is like, I'll show you how it's done. And he pulls out the gun and he shoots 3 cowboys in the Old West. And that is a little Sergio Leone reference to the Man with No Name trilogy, specifically Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. That's how Clint Eastwood is introduced in that classic film. He's introduced going boom, 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 killing 3 cowboys in the middle of the desert. Now, that's our first setup for the sake of visual consistency. So we need to be thinking about the Old West, but not thinking about the Old West. Because it's so quick, we don't even remember what's on the screen anymore. It's just over. And the joke is made, oh, you have to use your hands? It's like a baby's toy. And it's just like, okay. So again, the filmmaking is there to distract us from the filmmaking. But actually, the reason I'm talking about Back to the Future Part 2 is because I was watching an episode of Miss Movies, and they were talking about Back to the Future Part 2 and how, why was that guy wearing that cowboy hat? Well, we get another hint toward the Old West when, after old Biff has gotten back from stealing the DeLorean and put it back where it was supposed to be, he's having some kind of heart attack or something, and in close-up we're seeing him struggle. And in the background we're seeing Marty and Doc put Jennifer back in the car. And we only hear the Doc say, "I've always wanted to visit the Old West." We hear him say it, it's really just one sentence. It feels like it's a throwaway line, and it's so quick, and we're paying attention to old Biff going, oh, 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 so that our mind's not even on that. But that's what's happening. And later on, when Marty comes back to alternate 1985, he finds Biff has conquered the town. He's a mogul of some kind, and it's in that first scene when he walks up to the casino that Biff has built in the middle of the town. There's a little video playing on loop, and they talk about the history of the luckiest man in Hillsvale or Hills Valley or whatever. And they say it all started with Mad Dog Tannen, the quickest shot in the West. And it's just one shot of Mad Dog Tannen. holding a gun in his hand. Just one shot, and then it's over, and the documentary keeps going. It's so fast, you don't even notice it. I mean, you see it, but you don't notice it. You don't really care. But then when Marty sees the part of, and then Biff marries his high school love, Lorraine McFly, and Marty freaks out and he backs up, and you see the guy wearing the cowboy hat, Billy Zane, and again, that hat is there for multiple reasons. One, this Biff is clearly obsessed with the Man with No Name trilogy. Because he's got his guys wearing cowboy hats, toting guns, walking around. They're acting like a bunch of cowboys, and they look like they're cowboys in like an old school casino. And that's what they were always doing in those movies, gambling and shooting each other. And that's kind of the world that Biff created for himself. And when Marty comes back to ask, the alternate Biff, how did you get this power? What the hell happened? What about the almanac that he finds out that Biff has? And it's in that scene when he first shows up. Biff's in the hot tub with two chicks, and he's watching Fistful of Dollars, the first movie of the Man with the No Name trilogy. And it's the end scene where the bad guy is shooting at Clint Eastwood, and Clint Eastwood keeps going down and then getting back up. Aim for the heart. That's how you kill a man. That's your words. And the villain keeps shooting, and Clint Eastwood won't stay down. And then Clint Eastwood pulls out the metal panel and reveals that's what was saving his life the whole time. And that is a seed for the next movie. At the end, Back to the Future Part 3, how does Marty save himself from getting shot in the chest by Mad Dog Tannen? Metal plate over his chest. And revealed when Mad Dog tries to punch him in the chest. And it's just a good gag. It's a really good gag. But it all had to be set up. Where did Marty get the idea for this thing? And no dialogue on the part of the characters. Just knowing that Marty sees it is enough for the audience to understand where the idea came from. So many movies today get so obsessed with how do we fill our movie with stuff that they really do create filler that's not important, doesn't mean anything to the movie. It's just because they have this plot that they want to successfully tell, and they want to keep it engaging, but they don't really know what to do. And the art of filmmaking is creating these character relationships. That the plot stuff is in the background. The plot stuff is something that you can sort of understand quickly, but the character relationships are what fill out the movie. So that's what I think makes this movie work, is that while we're getting all these little visual hints, they're in the background. What we're seeing is Marty having conflict with Biff. Like, hey, I'm turning off your TV. We're going to talk now. We're going to talk about the almanac. And so now your mind is on the plot. But what's getting you through the plot is the looks that they're having with each other. The Biff being like, how the hell do you know about the almanac? He says it with his look. He doesn't say a single word about how the hell, but he says it with his look. And even when he explains everything to Marty, you don't even realize he's just luring Marty to a quiet place away from everyone where they won't hear him shoot Marty. So that's really what's sort of going on. That's how wise this guy is. He's sort of wise enough to be a villain in an old Western. But hey, look, still works. And another visual setup, visual consistency. In the last video I talked about how Biff was, in the 80s reshot opening scene, he comes out and witnesses the DeLorean fly away, and he goes, what the hell happened? But when he came out, he was holding some auto detailing matchbook cards, or little matchbooks. And in that scene, when Biff is explaining how he got the almanac, that's where Marty sees this little sort of frisbee-looking thing with a whole bunch of little matchbox on it, and it's Biff's Realty Company, or Biff's whatever it is, it's Biff's Casino, something like that. And again, more visual consistency. Later on, we will see this card again. We'll see this matchbox again, and it'll turn to auto detailing, which just tells us again visually. All right, this means that all of that was changed. Everything was resolved, but we needed to see these little visual drops just to sort of accept it in our minds. It's a lot of information, and it's all communication. And how do I know this? How am I paying attention to this? It's because I've seen it in other movies. In the Spider-Man movie 2002, they knew that having Willem Dafoe's character Norman Osborn, they knew having him being in a mask would come out of nowhere, and that they didn't really have the time in the movie to establish where he got the mask from. But what they did visually in the production design, whenever we see Norman Osborn in his home, his house is surrounded by masks from all around the world, so that establishes multiple things about him. The first is that he travels the world, and the second is that he has an obsession with masks, with faces that go over your own face, because each mask itself was a different kind of face, and it was covering his walls. So that was his thing. I collect toys and movies, but Norman Osborn collects masks, and it's part of his character, but it's also part of visually creating a consistency for his character, so that when he showed up in the Green Goblin Power Rangers mask, which a lot of people don't like, but I loved it, I thought that made more sense than his face changing to a green thing, or for some reason having a latex mask. That makes so little sense. As cool as it would be to see it, the minute you put real people in it, I think it would just made no sense. So I thought that having it be that metallic sort of more military designed mask, I thought that made a lot more sense. But it's also, again, the production design or the costume design with cowboy hat, all of that's there to visually create a consistency in your mind about the character. That's why you can accept it when these strange things happen, because in your head it's strange, but I accept it. But why? Because the groundwork was laid visually without dialogue explanation. No one ever says, "Oh, we love cowboy hats." No one ever says in Spider-Man, "Oh, I love collecting masks." You just see it. It's there. It's part of the character, and it fills in the gap in your mind intellectually. Your brain understands it, even if you can't explain it. You know it. And yeah, that's visual consistency and stuff and production design. Yeah. 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 I think I'm done talking about Back to the Future Part 2 for now. Maybe you're happy about that. Maybe you're not. But definitely watch Back to the Future 2. It's fucking good.